Meow meow. Anyway, today I finished the course. But it's still no guarantee that I will finish the whole onboarding process. We still have an orientation on Tuesday. So, I'm not off the hook yet. Um, you know, yeah, if I, I can still feel, um, I can still feel on my part, then, they can, they can also feel on their part. If, if the process doesn't, if the process isn't finished. So yeah, I'm not yet off the hook. Cannot be complacent. But, I cannot, I cannot manage to be sad
We're going to hunt.
or fearful. I just wanna get, just wanna have it over with. Get it over with. So Tuesday, yes. Monday I will be waiting for them. Waiting for maybe a link.
Nice and spicy. Stay clear. Swirl, Mark 2.
This is what I like about Laynet's burst. Did you see that? It turned into a pyro.
Absorption test. Stay clear.
Oh, I said Laynet. I'm sorry. So gross.
Boba, get them. Animal test 6308.
And yes, Laynet also. That's also how Laynet's burst works.
Spicy. Absorption test.
Oh no, Laynet is more of a, I would say a gun turret. It's pyro. It's very nice.
I taste blood.
Animal test 6308. Stay clear. Looks still. Swirl, Mark 2.
Pyro.
Get back!
The frying pan. You're toast.
have no idea how this works. I just keep on fighting.
Let's see. Enhanced animal
What is that? Cryo?
nice and spiked. Animal tech 60. Absorption test. Let's see. Stay clear.
Oh, I don't think we got what we needed. Yo, for some reason, my solar setup is like running out very quickly. I don't know why. What's wrong with this? We have my fan plugged in. We have the computer plugged in. That's very it's very fast. You know, that's giving me the impression that I might not stream for long. Then I didn't get what we need. Oh, we did. Sorry. I thought was different. Now I wanna learn about some banks. I don't know. it's like I wanna learn about things that I don't even use. What a nerd, right? Anyway, what day is it? Friday. No, that's pretty nice. Heals the active character. Well, I'm starting to feel characters I usually don't. starting to make them stronger. Because because you never know. You never know which one is best suited for situations.
Stay clear. Animal hypostasis emulate.
It's like stepping out of my comfort zone, filming other characters too,
Absorption test.
instead of the usual.
Race you. Stay clear.
I'm really wondering why my setup is suddenly down right now. I mean, down in voltage. I mean, right now I only have the usual stuff plugged in. $27-minute mark.
May magic ang kamay ni Mommy. Pagkahaplos, bumubuti po ang ubo at sipon ko.
Right now I only have the usual stuff.
Grab, ihaplos sa dibdib para sa ubot sipon at sa likod para sa sakit ng katawan. Haplos ng Vicks, all night ginhawa.
Cake na tayo! Happy birthday to you. Thanks for the cake and
Freaking unstoppable. Unskippable.
to eat already. We just love the best tasting.
Like, nope. So she comes over, she gives him a hug and a kiss, she goes back to bed, and he would go downstairs, flip on a Disney movie. Actually, that does not happen very often. Sherman's family would go on to sue the hospital, and they would be awarded an undisclosed amount of money from the hospital in 2008. In October of 2005, a 21-year-old named Nathan was back home in Elk Grove, California, visiting his mother at her apartment for a couple of days. Her apartment was part of this really safe complex. It was gated, there's lots of lights and cameras, so anything that went bump in the night was just going to be, your noisy neighbors or something. On the last night of Nathan's stay, he was laying in his bed in the guest room, listening to the hum of the street lamp that was outside, and the crickets and the passing by of cars when he drifted off to sleep. At about 2 a.m., Nathan woke up, or so he thought. He couldn't move his body, he could only move his eyes, and even though he had never experienced sleep paralysis before, he instinctively understood this is probably that. He noticed the room was completely silent. There was no more crickets, no more hum of the light outside, no more traffic, just total silence. And then he started flashing his eyes around the room because he couldn't move his head or his body, and he started taking stock of the room. The bed he was in was positioned as far away from the door as he could in the back right corner. From where he was laying, if he looked to his right, in that corner was a big armoire, and then moving left from the armoire as he scanned the room, you come to the door, which is on the opposite side of where his bed was, and then if he kept scanning left, he would reach the foot of his bed, and just beyond the foot of his bed was a table and a chair. But because he was laying flat, he couldn't really look down and actually see the table and chair. And so with all of his strength, he managed to raise his head just enough that he had a line of sight to that section of his room, the only section he has not looked at yet. And he sees the table and chair, and he sees in the corner is this dark figure that's standing there looking at him. He's completely frozen with fear. His thought is, there's an intruder in the house. How did they get in here? What are they doing in here? And he managed to keep his head up just long enough to get a decent look at this dark figure, and he determined it was most likely a woman with a shawl covering her face. And before his head fell back to the pillow, he saw her suddenly crouch down on the ground out of view. And then Nathan's head fell back. And now he knows there's just some stranger in his room, and he can't lift his head up anymore, and he's looking around with his eyes. He sees the armoire, he sees the door, he can't see that table and chair, and then he hears the sound of someone slithering along the ground out of view. And he can hear her breathing as she's getting closer and closer to the edge of the bed. And he's laying there terrified. He's so scared he can't even make a sound. And he's telling himself, this has to be a dream. Wake up, wake up, wake up. And he's laying there, and this woman, she stands up and she leans out over his bed and she looks at him, and her face is pale and her eyes are sunk way back in her head. And then she begins to slowly crawl on top of him. And Nathan's sitting here looking at this woman. He wants to close his eyes, but he can't. And he just feels his chest being pressed down. He can hear the sounds of the springs compressing all around him as this woman positions herself on his chest. And then he finally manages to let out a scream, and then suddenly he's awake. The woman's gone. And he sits up and he's looking around. There's nobody in his room. The familiar hum of the light and the crickets and the traffic outside, they all return. And his mom comes running in the room and she's like, hey, are you okay? I heard screaming in here. He said, oh, no, I had a bad dream. I'm fine now. I had a terrible dream, but I'm fine now. His mom's like, okay, all right, you need anything? And he's like, nope. So she comes over, she gives him a hug and a kiss. She goes back to bed, and he would go downstairs, flip on a Disney movie, actually Aladdin, and he would fall asleep with a Disney movie on and with lights on. And there was no more sleep paralysis that night. The next day, Nathan got up and he headed back to his house, and he couldn't shake the experience. He had never had sleep paralysis before, but it was just so much more terrifying than he ever would have imagined. And he's just thinking to himself, I can't believe there are people that put up with this on any sort of regular basis. But, after a couple of days and getting home and not experiencing any sleep paralysis, time went on and he just kind of forgot about it. A few months later, in March of 2006, Nathan is at this big family party in Chico, California. Big outdoor barbecue, all of his family's there, and at some point his sister shows up. His sister was not supposed to be attending this party, so it was a great surprise. He hasn't seen her in a while, and he immediately pulls her aside to catch up with her. And so for the first hour of their conversation, they're just chatting about their lives and what they're up to. Towards the end of their conversation, Nathan suddenly felt compelled to share his sleep paralysis experience with his sister. And the reason he wanted to was because he knew that she knew that...
I don't like to share with people in real life because the most common reaction is to make fun of me. So I really don't like to talk to people in real life about that kind of stuff and personal stuff. And you know how people like to take others out of context. Like for example, every time based on my experience, so I think when I share about my my choice to abstain from liquor, to stop, immediately, of course, a lot of people would immediately assume that I'm a freaking beggar. That I'm telling the story so that they'll feel sorry and then they'll give me money, diba? I mean, that's normal. The two main reasons why I'm very open about this. Number one, to make it clear. To make it clear to other people. And number two, to remind myself. To remind myself that I can't go back to that kind of life anymore. And somehow a lot of people don't have any respect for that, I mean, a lot. And they're gonna keep on trying to convince me to go back to drinking, no? Especially those who don't know me, who didn't know about the things that happened when I was actively drinking. And when I say they don't have any respect, I really mean it. They don't have any respect. Even if I already told them like 3 times, I give them a lot of examples of things that happened to me when I was, under the influence, and it's as if all the accidents and the fights, it's as if those didn't happen, no? It's as if they have your back when something happens. But the reality is they're just gonna leave you. If those times I got drunk, in a bar, people just leave you. Even if they know that you got into an accident, they wouldn't care. They would still want you to show up and continue the routine. No? No, I've also witnessed it happen to other people, not just to myself. Oh yeah, I know. I gotta be honest, there was one time during college when, one of the older students there hosted had us hang out at his house. And of course we were drinking, except for him. I was kind of telling him, come on, let's drink. Back then I didn't, I didn't realize that, I was the bad one. He already told me. So he told me the story about his uncle who died from alcohol, from liquor, he told me that his uncle would drink gin, exactly the one that I was drinking when I got worse. I didn't realize back then that I was the bad one. I was the one without any respect for that. And of course my rationale is, drinking liquor is legal. Yeah, that was before my drinking problem really got worse. But after that I never tried to get him back to drinking anymore. So I don't understand why. I don't understand why other people in my life currently I mean, they wouldn't understand. You know, there are a lot of disrespectful people. I mean, you know, after telling them 3 times, you know, I'm already telling them all the bad things that happened, they still keep on, and they still keep on, trying to convince me, you know. 2 companies ago, they were forcing me already. You know, I remember that co-worker of mine who had me on my arm. Oh, come on, please. Hold me. Blah, blah, blah. You know, in the end, maybe a couple of them, yeah, of course, that's how we communicated, through like an online meeting while we're in the office. There was a time when someone or some people would, you know, while I'm speaking, they would mute me. They would mute me, or they would put my hand down, you know, the raise hand function. You know, I actually overheard our manager one time.
If there's nothing better to do, we could go foraging for ingredients.
You know, we told them respect begets respect. So, I think that really prompted the apology. And then, of course, you know, instead of apologizing, I'd rather that they stop doing it. No, I don't need to hear your apology. I'd rather that you stop what you're doing. No need to embarrass yourself. And you know, I'm not God. I'm not Saint Peter, so no need to apologize to me. And no need to explain. I think that's the best line I got from a former co-worker, no? No need to explain, you're not at a police station. Tough plugged in.
Magic ang
Not Saint Peter. Okay, I thought the stream got disconnected. So that's a very good thing to hear, you know, last year. No need to explain, you're not a police station. So, huwag kang magpaliwanag, wala ka sa police station. It's it's reinforcing my attitude of unforgiveness. You know, I kind of modified it to fit my bias. No need to apologize to me, I'm not God. I hope, you know, my rationale for that is, I hope God forgives you because I won't. So,
that he was actually a skeptic. And so she would believe him. If he's telling her this is what happened, she would believe that that's what he saw. And so he starts by saying, you know, I had the weirdest experience at Mom's apartment just a couple of months
Yeah, and, you know, some people are very disrespectful. And that's how I deem them disrespectful. If I already told you thrice, 3 times, and you're still gonna do it, you're just being disrespectful.
months ago. I'm pretty sure it was sleep paralysis. And his sister immediately butts in and she goes, wait a minute. I had sleep paralysis for the first time in my life 2 weeks ago at Mom's apartment. It was horrible. I was in the guest room and then I saw this woman and she was like standing on me. I thought I was gonna die. It was horrible. That's exactly what happened to me. I was laying in the guest room and I couldn't move, and then I saw a woman in the corner and she stood on my chest. They proceeded to go over all the details of each of their stories, and they discovered that they had had almost the exact same experience. And at the end of it, they wanted to have a rational explanation for how they both could just somehow have their only sleep paralysis experience in the same room in roughly the same timeline and experience the exact same events. They were trying to come up with a rational explanation for that, but it was just too much of a coincidence. But ultimately, neither of them were really prepared to start discussing what else it could be. So they decided to just kind of laugh it off and say, man, that's pretty weird, and they moved on. After the party was over, Nathan would go back to his house and he would tell his wife about this crazy coincidence he and his sister had, and his wife would say, yeah, that's wild. But after that, Nathan just did not want to think about it or talk about it, and so he kind of just, pushed it out of his mental space and did forget about it. He moved on. 5 months later, in August of 2006, Nathan's mom would move out of that apartment building, and she would move into a 2-story house still in Elk Grove, California. Shortly after she moved in, she asked Nathan if he would come spend a couple nights with her, and Nathan said sure. In order to better understand what happens to Nathan over the course of his stay at his mother's new house, you need to understand a basic layout of her house. So when you walk through her double doors, to your left is going to be a formal living room. In the center of the house is a hallway that shoots straight back to the kitchen. And then to your right when you walk in, there's a wall, and on that wall is the stairs leading up to the second floor. If you take those stairs to the second floor, you reach a landing where there's a window that looks back into the backyard, and immediately to your right, there is a single door, and that's the master bedroom where Nathan's mom would sleep. From the landing, if you turned left, there'd be another door that's a mirror image of the master bedroom door, and this door is the guest room. That's where Nathan was going to stay. And then to the left of the guest room was a hall that went to the front of the house, but that's irrelevant to the story. If you went inside the guest room, the bed was located in the back right corner, so the same layout as the guest room in the apartment building, where the person laying in the bed, so Nathan, his feet would be closest to the door. And from Nathan's perspective in the bed, the only other piece of furniture in this new house guest room was a table that was, from his perspective, on the right-hand wall, centered on the wall, and on the table was a TV. So that's the only things in the room. The first night Nathan was at this new house was totally uneventful. The second night, not so much. He was up in the guest room, laying on the bed, watching TV. The lights are off, it's just the TV on, and at some point, he dozes off. He wakes up a short time later, and he can't move. It's the same sensation he had when he was staying with his mom at her apartment. And he begins to panic because the last time he felt this way, a strange, veiled woman stood on his chest and made it feel like he was dying. And so immediately, he's trying to move his body, he can't, and so using his eyes, he starts looking around the room, praying this woman is not in the room with him. And so he looks to the right, to that corner, which he can see. There's no one there. From this corner, he starts scanning across the room. He sees the TV, it's still on. He keeps scanning, and he sees the door, and it's open. And he's able to just barely make out the space at the foot of the bed. He can actually see to the corner, and this woman, she's not in here. And so initially, he feels incredibly relieved that she's not in the room with him. But then he finds himself focusing on the open door into the dark hallway. And he's thinking to himself, please do not come walking through that door. And so he stares at the open door, just hoping he breaks out of this sleep paralysis when he notices something about the TV. It's flickering. And so he averts his gaze to the TV, and he realizes what he's looking at on TV does not look familiar. It does not look like a TV show. It looks like CCTV camera footage, like it looks like a security camera footage. And he realizes the footage he's looking at is the inside of his mother's kitchen downstairs. He recognized the way it was laid out. That's his mother's house. That's downstairs. And he's staring at the footage thinking, why is this footage playing on the TV? And I don't think there's a camera down there. When he notices on the camera, the woman with the veil walks into the middle of the frame, and she looks up at the camera right as the camera turns off. And then the room is completely dark. There's no more ambient light in the room. The hallway is dark, and he's left paralyzed knowing this woman is downstairs in the kitchen. And as he's laying there, he hears her start running through the house. And it sounds like an animal is barreling into things as she's running through the bottom floor, and she stops at the foot of the stairs. And he's thinking to himself, I know where she's going. She's coming up to my room. And so as he's laying there, he feels his heart racing, and he's staring at the open door. He knows she's going to come flying up those stairs, and she's going to come through that door. And instead of running up the stairs, he hears her take one step, two step. And as she's making her way up the stairs, he's just thinking, please break out of this trance, stop this paralysis, wake up, wake up. And then he sees her head emerge, and she turns to look at him from the stairs.
Yeah, I haven't played this Honzo in a while, so I'm gonna play it now.
Into the room, and once she sees it's him, she bolts around and starts charging into the room on all fours like an animal. At this point, Nathan lets out a primal scream. He is scared for his life as this woman is charging towards him, and she stops dead in her tracks right in the middle of the room. She looks at him, turns around, and crashes out of the room, charges downstairs, and then it's silent. As soon as she was downstairs, Nathan could sit up, except it did not feel like the first time he had sleep paralysis at his mom's apartment, when he sat up and he had the sensation of relief. You've woken up. You were asleep before, now you're awake. This time, it was like he was always awake, but now he can sit up. He did not have a sense of relief. In fact, he was worried she was still in the house. And as he's sitting up in bed, his mother comes running into the room. She looks disheveled, she's half asleep, and she's like, was that you? Were you running around the house? I could have sworn I heard someone running around the house. Was that you? Nathan's looking at her, and he can't even process what he's been through, whether that was real, whether it was a dream, and he's trying to find the words to describe to his mom the dream he had, but like he can't process what's happening. And he just says, Mom, we have to check the house. We have to make sure no one's in the house. And so the two of them flip on every light upstairs. They're not even talking. But at this point, it's survival mode. They turn on all the lights upstairs, and Nathan leads the way down. They're flicking on all the lights, and they manage to search the whole house, and there's no sign of a break-in. There's no one in the house. After the coast was clear, and they felt like they were not in immediate danger, they went into the kitchen to kind of talk about what just happened. And so Nathan's like, okay, Mom, I just got to tell you everything that I'm thinking right now. I can't really...
Meow, 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 meow.
That mo lahat.
Meow, 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 meow.
Can I get a nade crate? Awesome.
I heard meow, meow. I'm gonna be level 20 soon.
Wer hat die Katze angelacht?
That's nice.
Gut, ja.
I'm Filipino.
Good.
Hello. Guten Morgen.
Hallo.
Is 1 a.m. here.
Dali. Das Rest der Flanke in den angebrecht.
And, you know, I'm out of German.
process what just happened.
Weil stärker bleibt. Bei treu zu sich.
Meow, meow, meow.
Da kommen noch mehr.
Meow, meow, meow. Dami.
Danke, Kamerad.
You know,
Dr. Leaks.
I can't even remember how to say left and right in German. Rechts. You know, I don't remember.
Rechts und links, beide Flanke.
Oh, left and right. Links and rechts, right?
Left and right.
Legs.
Rechts und links, beide Flanke. Right
Okay,
and
okay.
left. Right and left, both flanks.
Legs. Ah! I keep
Legs.
forgetting.
R-E-C-H-T-S.
Yeah, Rex. Links.
Links would be left.
Links. How do you say it again?
Hey, I've been German. I've been
Link.
learning German for 5 years, so
Meow, meow, meow.
I'm not like fluent, but pretty good.
What smoke? You mean 420?
Geradeaus. Zu Boden. Stellung.
I think it was a bad dream, but I'm starting to think that it could be something else, or I'm just losing my mind. So a few months ago, I was sleeping in your guest room in your apartment, and I had an experience that I'm almost positive was sleep paralysis. You know, I was laying there, I couldn't move, and this figure was in the room, and they were standing on me. It was terrifying.
Meow, meow, meow.
Right. Proper.
I can buy more Big Macs.
This is enough eggs. Oh, well, I suppose if I was speaking the Austro-Hungarian dialect. The problem is I only know Hochdeutsch. I don't know like the Austro-Hungarian dialect. I need to learn that.
Big Macs. Big Mac.
Yeah, just like find something that's actually not going to kill you to do. Like exactly.
It will kill me
Just like,
because
eat something cooler. Just chew on gum, bro.
that's gonna destroy my teeth, man. The freak.
Chew on gum or something like that. Or like there's no. Vape.
I'm a coffee addict now. Like always. Big Mac. Big Mac, Whopper. like an industry plant.
But it sounded an awful lot like sleep paralysis. But then a couple months after that, I talked to my sister and I told her about it. And she told me that very recently, right before you moved into this house actually, she was in that room and she also had basically the exact same experience. She had never had sleep paralysis before. I had never had sleep paralysis before. So we basically had the exact same horrifying experience in the same room around the same time. And then just now, tonight, I had another sleep paralysis experience with the same woman who's running around the house, and you just said you heard her running around the house. His mom looked really concerned, but she wasn't shocked. She says to Nathan, I have seen this woman. I saw her in my apartment way long time ago, but I remember what you're describing. That's the experience I had. This woman, showed up in the room, and she stood on me. And it scared the heck out of me, but I didn't tell anyone because I thought it was sleep paralysis. And so Nathan and his mom proceeded to spend the next several hours just talking through what this could be. How could they, all three of them, him, his mom, and his sister, how could all of them have had the exact same experience? And how could tonight, when Nathan had this experience, how could his mom have heard those footsteps if that was indeed sleep paralysis? Because it wasn't Nathan, he was in the bedroom. And it wasn't his mom, she was in her bedroom. And she didn't have any pets, so who could it be? Nathan says he and his family are still totally rattled by this experience, and they don't have an answer. And this is a family of skeptics, so they're not looking for a reason to call this paranormal. They simply don't have the answers. Nathan has said that he, his mom, and his sister have not had any further experiences with the woman in black ever since that last experience Nathan had, and they're just hoping it stays that way.
Hold on, we got one more very special story to cap off these 5 stories. It is special because this story is going to be included in our brand new graphic novel coming out October 1st. And I actually told the story live recently on a YouTube live stream. And so if you missed that live telling, don't worry, because we pulled that story out of the live stream. We completely edited it. And now you all get to listen to it right here, right now. Enjoy.
Itchy brushes ruining your
that's
makeup?
his real voice,
Dream
man.
of pro-level perfection. Real Techniques brush set with ultra-soft fibers blends flawlessly. Lazada exclusive sale, authentic guaranteed. Tap to master your look.
In July of 2012, there was a woman named Simone who was 22 years old, who was living in this beautiful town in southwestern Germany called Rüdesham am Rhein. And it's this winemaking village, and it's gorgeous. There's rolling green hills, there's vineyards as far as the eye can see. It's situated right on the Rhine River. It's like this wonderful place. And Simone had grown up in this village. That's where she lived, and she loved it there. Charmed childhood. She's 22 now. But this summer she was feeling a little bit down because she was actually getting ready to leave this village and start the next chapter of her life in New York City. But instead of dwelling on this sadness of moving away from home for the first time, she instead was really fixated on what she was going to do that summer, her final summer in Rüdesham am Rhein. And so Simone, one of her favorite memories of her entire life in this village is in the summer she would go to the summer camp. There was this beautiful little camp in this forest that was not far from the town, and from the time she was a little kid, she went as an attendee to this camp. There's all these counselors, and there's 200 kids that go to it, and they play games, and there's, they put on stage plays, and it's just this wonderful, wholesome camping experience. And when she became a teenager, she basically was too old to go to this camp. And so she did what many of the other former attendees did, which is they eventually transitioned to becoming a counselor, like a volunteer counselor. And so she became a counselor and, loved it, frankly, more than being an attendee. And for every summer after that, she was a volunteer counselor. And this summer, July of 2012, was no different. And she was going to be a counselor as well. So that was what she was going to do with her final summer before leaving for New York City. So, in mid-July of that year, Simone packs up her stuff and she heads off to this forest to go be a camp counselor. And so the logistics of this camp is the attendees, the children. It's a 2-week-long camp, 200 kids. They would get dropped off by their parents in the morning, and then in the evening they get picked up and go back home. But for the counselors, they would actually live at the campsite for the 2 weeks. It was like a 2-week time they were out in the woods together. And the counselors had kind of created that tradition, if you will, and they they told the staff, if you will, that the reason they were doing that is for efficiency's sake. We get
I got my KD
we'll
back.
be there first thing in the morning because we're living there and we can set the camp up, and when the kids go home for the day, we're all going to be there anyways, so it's easier to clean up the camp. There's all these reasons they had for it, but the truth was the reason the counselors like to stay at this camp and live there is because after the kids would go home at night, all the counselors would retreat to their tents, which they stayed in for these 2 weeks. They put these tents out in the forest. So the camp is like in a clearing, and then basically just into the tree line they would set up their tents. And the counselors would live out there for the 2 weeks. But once the kids were gone, they would just go out to their little campsite and put a little campfire together. And the drinking age was 16 years old, or is 16 years old in Germany. And so they just like party, basically. Not like crazy, but they had like a good time out in the woods. So that was the real allure of the counselor side of being at this camp. So Simone, mid-July, she heads out to the camp. She gets there a day ahead of when camp starts, and she connects with all of the counselors she hadn't seen for so long, and they set up the camp. And then that night they did not go out into the woods and have a party. They just set up their tents out in the tree line. And then the next day is day one of the actual camp, and the kids come along, they get dropped off by their parents, and they have this wonderful first day of camp, doing their thing, doing camp stuff. And then in the evening, after the kids all left, Simone and the other, dozen or so counselors, after doing all their chores to wrap up for the day, they excitedly grabbed, their beer and wine and rushed out to the tents in the forest to have their first kind of like party night. And so they get out to the tents, and they're all, having a good time, swapping stories, just enjoying summer. And in virtue of it being the first day, a lot of the counselors were pretty exhausted. It was a full effort that first day, and so no one was really up for staying up super late. They wanted to crash and just go to bed. Simone kind of wanted to stay awake, and so she was one of the last people to finally retire into her tent. But she did eventually. It's well past midnight. You got to picture where this is happening too. They're far enough away from the actual campground. They're like well into the tree line that there's no light beyond whatever they have on them. So, if you sleep in these woods, it's like darkness, right? So it's well past midnight.
Oh, hell yeah.
Simone finally is like one of the last people to climb into her tent. And they all slept on these cots that they would put inside of their tent, so they're elevated off the ground. And so Simone gets into her tent, and she gets in her cot, and it's just so hot. It was just really hot this time of the year, and she just felt like it was stifling in her tent. And so she decided she would pull her cot out of her tent and just basically set it just in the woods. Like, imagine if you wandered off into the woods with a cot, put it down, and lied on top of it. That's what she was doing. She's in the middle of the forest, completely exposed, and she's going to try to sleep. It's a little bit cooler out there. She wasn't the only one doing this. Some of the other counselors had also struggled to fall asleep because of the heat, so there was at least a few other people that had their cots outside of their tent. And so Simone, she puts her cot next to or near another counselor who's already asleep. Simone gets in her cot, and she's trying to fall asleep, but she's still struggling to fall asleep. She could only really hear the sounds of the other counselors that were kind of snoring and, sleeping away, but she couldn't sleep. And she had this growing sense of dread as she was laying, again, in total darkness in the woods, exposed in this cot. I can imagine it being a little bit stressful. But eventually, she falls asleep.
Almost one right there. Fucking mortar, man.
We did it.
Meow meow.
Dieses Himmels unseres und Gartens.
What the frick? Meow 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 meow.
Alright, bro. Oh, my KD. Du Sim is crispin nutter, bro. What the?
Well, I really don't know why my setup is running out so quickly.
Ich vergesse, was ich gesagt. Das
Miau,
ist
miau.
Lander. Österreicher schon gar nicht, brechen Sie niemand.
Meow meow meow.
Wir sind besser zum alles. Nummer 1. Platz 1.
Meow meow. Where's the mortar? The freak is the mortar.
The frick.
Meow
Für
meow.
Kron und Land. Na.
Spot, please.
Komm, unsere Familie zu Hause. Es abgegangen.
Spot. Please, spot.
I did learn the Austro-Hungarian dialect. But now I'm just speaking Hochdeutsch.
They're fucking us down the trench.
Man,
That's fine.
I'll spot myself.
Die sind nicht am links.
Watch the right, they got a spawn.
Rechts. Sie sind nach rechts. Gehen zum rechts, die sind da.
Ammo crate. No. Stab me, Wabby. Stab me, Wabby, hello.
Geradeaus, rechts. Bleiben graben. Bleiben graben, bleiben Fäuste, lang wir.
Scoreboard. Oh, I'm getting so many people here. You know, I've only been streaming for 1 hour, and my solar setup is pretty down. Kami from
Shot on it. Damn. Starting to run.
there's some Call of Duty shit. Did you see
I
that?
hit this dude in the chest with a rifle twice and I got damaged. Like, bro, what the fuck?
I'll meet up Frank.
Come on. What
I'll
was
meet
it?
up.
What is it? Kannst du jetzt zurück zur Stellung, bitte?
Meow, meow, meow.
Das ist viel. Viel zu viel.
Meow, meow.
Digga, what?
Back it up, boys.
Hey, hey, hey. Hey. Go away.
Wo sind euch? Geht so wo?
We're fucked.
Bibbidi bobbidi boa. See, I'm top Frank. I'm the best.
Rückzug. Rückzug.
We the best music.
Like that.
Slut. Yay.
Bitte ein Habsburger. Es baut hier. Das ganze Reich was sie jetzt. Muss das Beste sein.
Ammo crate.
Left flank, left flank.
Ammo crate, please.
Left flank, left flank. Nach links.
Ammo crate.
They're through the line.
I'm all right.
They're on the left, they're through the line. There's like 5 of them.
Hello.
Doubtlessly gonna double spawn.
Yo, someone on the game is speaking German. Meow meow meow.
Indeed.
This map is just a fucking Fortnite game, bro. There's so many bush campers. Not gonna lie, I actually really like this map. It's just that there's so many bush campers. No, Valorant is not hacking. How about you just realize that some people are good at video games, gang?
No, he's hacking for sure, bro.
Meow meow meow.
And beyond that, some of them are better than me. Sounds kinda strange, right?
Valorant isn't real.
It's real to me.
He's a figment of the imagination.
You look lonely. I can fix that.
Or just staring up at you with like a fucking broken ass face.
Blade Runner.
Oh my god, I just got swarmed by like 6 guys. Pause. But left side, they're definitely going for A, and we have no fucking wire because our engineers do not fucking get this!
They're
We
at
don't
the
have a single
home.
engineer! We have 1 engineer, gang! 1!
They're at the fortification to the left.
Yeah,
We
they gotta
have
respond.
1 engineer. 1!
I got stabbed. Oh yeah, I know. You know, my job application is moving forward, but you know, it's still no guarantee by next week. So, you know, by next week I hope we finish everything. I've been doing my part. I hope they do their part as
Oh,
well.
they're on B. Arming.
Yeah, sir.
Look behind you, bro.
You know, I should already be teaching by now. You know, our support isn't as fast as...
We got a mountaineer over here.
They're not very fast. Ammo crate, please. Ammo crate.
My
Mana.
aim is actually abysmally bad, bro. Yeah, damn.
They're on B. They're pushing it hard.
It's gonna take a while.
Whistle.
It's gonna take a while to grind.
Give me a crisp whistle. Oh fuck, they're arming. We're getting fucked. Sniper on the left.
You see, I Visit his
Luca in the
ass
bush.
for more cowbell.
And I gotta eat something later. The only things I ate were 3 hash browns. I just seared 3 hash browns. That's the only thing I ate. I'm gonna go
Seems
play
funny.
Counter-Strike. And why are they like that? It's like I always have to nag at our support. For them to check my submissions. Extension cable. Then I'm craving energy drink. Yesterday my diet was pretty substantial. I actually ate 4 eggs yesterday. And they say it's high in cholesterol. Meow meow.
What on? Let's go, let's go, let's go! Smoke!
Meow meow meow.
Terrorists win. Let's go.
Meow 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 meow.
Fire in the hole. Bomb has been planted. Terrorists win. Let's go earn our pay.
Meow meow meow.
Flashbang. Grenade out. Incendiary. Decoy. Throwing smoke. Counter-terrorists win. Let's show them who we are. Laying down smoke. Grenade out. Flashbang. Grenade out. Incendiary out. Decoys out.
Outside me. One more.
Bomb has been planted. Smoke. Grenade out.
I know. One car.
Throwing fire.
Well, I really don't know why my setup is running out very quickly.
Chai.
Diffusing. Bomb has been defused. Counter-terrorists win. We took the piss out of them. Throwing fire. Throwing flashbang. Throwing grenade. Incendiary out.
One more.
So.
Oh, tiger stripe. I saw something today. Love me. Meow meow meow. Meow meow.
Time to earn our stories.
I wonder.
Incendiary out. Fire in the hole. Incendiary. Throwing a grenade.
Easy, man.
Deploying decoy. Deploying flashbang.
Coin me. Coin me, coin me. Coin me.
Bomb has been planted.
Shh.
Laying down smoke.
Soba.
Diffusing.
No time.
Terrorists win.
Meow 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 meow.
Throwing fire.
Damn, my setup is really running out so quickly. Maybe I really shouldn't run my electric fan on it.
Decoy.
But, you know,
Grenade out. Starting fire. Fire in the hole.
maybe they rotate. Middle.
Counter-terrorists win. I like this.
Sneaky. Wow, I'm top 2.
Remove any doubts in your head. It's us or them.
Meow meow meow.
Incendiary out. Incendiary out. Grenade out.
Come on, didn't die from that.
Throwing a grenade. Throwing flashbang.
Anyway, today is Friday and 1, 2, 3, 4 days from now.
Hungry.
Throwing a grenade.
被脚了。
Counter-terrorists win. You're champion. Here we go. Grenade out. Throwing fire.
This is a very close fight.
Grenade out. Flashbang. Decoys out.
GG.
Terrorists win. Bomb has been planted. We are out of here. Throwing a grenade. Deploying flashbang. Grenade.
他 A 大没人呢，兄弟。
Incendiary. Flashbang. Counter-terrorists win. Okay.
Meow meow meow.
Sergeant, where you got Jelly, huh? Sergeant from the other side.
Middle. Teammates. Teammates.
Counter-terrorists win. You're right on, you're right on. Let us go. Move it, move it.
Meow meow.
Decoys out. I'm throwing a grenade. Fire.
Long. On site. One middle behind us. Clear tunnel. Clear tunnel. I think last one tunnel. Behind us.
Bomb has been planted.
Meow 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 meow. Meow 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 meow.
This is our fight. Throwing a decoy. Throwing smoke. Flashbang out.
Tunnel.
I am planting the bomb. Bomb has been planted.
Middle.
Grenade. Throwing fire. Terrorists win.
Meow 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 meow.
Come on, let's go. Smoke. Decoy, throw the flashback. Deploying smoke shield.
You know, I really shouldn't eat things every day. Maybe at the most every other day.
Grenade out. Molotov.
Sorry. Sorry, man.
Throwing flashbang. Smoking.
City. Meow, 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 meow.
Thank you.
I wonder, I'm really wondering right now why that was the case. My setup running out so fast.
Throwing flashbang. Decoy down. Throwing fire. Throwing fire.
And I can't think of any explanation as to why that is.
Throwing a flashbang. Throwing fire.
이 말 하요.
Meow, 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 meow.
Come on, let's go. Throwing a decoy. Flashbang out.
Here you go. Here you go.
Behind, teammates. Good job. You know, I was really rambling earlier about, the usual. Meow, 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 meow.
Go, go, go. Flashbang. Decoy. I'm throwing a grenade. Molotov. Smoke.
Good job.
Throwing smoke. Throwing flashbang.
Yeah, I saw him. No! No, I don't have credits. Frick. Meow, 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 meow.
Let's go. Throwing a decoy. I'm throwing a flashbang. Smoking. Planted. Bomb has been planted.
Meow, meow, meow.
We are doing this.
I thought I was gonna be like top 2. Meow, 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 meow.
Let's go, let's go. Decoy. Flashbang. Grenade out.
Genie. No.
Smoke. I'm throwing smoke. Counter-terrorists win.
Meow, 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 meow.
Okay, and here we bloody go. Decoys out. I throw the flashbang. I'm throwing smoke. Throwing a flashbang. I'm throwing a grenade. Throwing fire.
Frick.
Throwing fire.
Hello. You know, I think I passed the exam I'm going to an orientation on Tuesday. Online orientation. And I hope after that, I can be fully fledged. Meow meow.
So what? Our win brought us victory.
If not, I'm gonna have to look for a job. Gotta look someplace else. Anyway, I wouldn't say it's breakfast, I only had, I only had 3 hash browns so far today. I can't believe how much nagging I needed to do. I already did everything more than 3 weeks ago. I kept on nagging. Hold on, I'm gonna get some coffee. I'm still hungry. I'm still hungry. The hash browns. The hash browns didn't help. Well, let me get some coffee and then while I'm going there, I'm also gonna take the sausages out of the freezer. Hold on, maybe 1 to 2 minutes. I'll be right back. Alright, I'm back. I found out that we still have a lot of ground meat. So yes, I'm gonna cook spaghetti. I gotta finish them. And I got a small Gala apple. It's really small.
Your turn to pick. Ten seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. 5 seconds remaining. Your turn to pick. Seconds remaining. 5 seconds remaining.
Despite everything, I'm still very grateful. They helped me a lot. It's not all bad.
Prepare for battle.
Vector of infection.
I should really stop being an a-hole. Yeah. Yeah, it's tedious, but I shouldn't be an a-hole about it.
Thirty seconds to battle.
Ooh, cherry cookies. Damn, that reminds me. I remember these snacks. I don't really wanna eat them anymore. That sticks to the teeth.
My tissues. Yes.
Ano kayang ano?
Rot in hell.
I'm kinda tempted to go out later and buy some snacks. Sweet stuff, not chips.
Under attack. I molder on. What a lot of rot. Spoiling for a fight. Infection. Yes. I go. Marks the spot. I'll plague you.
For
Tower is under attack.
yeah, I should really stop being an a-hole. I mean earlier, in my rambling about
I'll
people wanting to force stuff. That's part of it.
vector of infection. Coin for me. Decompose. Denied. Galloping infection. I linger on. Bloat and bile. Affliction.
Oh, frick.
I go. Quickly. I run ransom.
First blood! Say hello to my
Rage and rot.
boomstick!
Of course. Forward. Play it. My tissues run. I shall repay in kind. Marks the decadent decay. Wither down.
Radiant structures
You
are
wither
fortified.
on the vine. Forward. Again.
3.
My tissues rot. I run rancid. A puddle marks the spot. What a lot of rot. Delaquest. Row. Pestilence.
Excuse me.
Marks the spot. Vector. I'm under attack.
Freak.
Thank you. Of course. Take a deep breath. Of course.
Supplements.
Quickly. Loxy, Loxy. Yes. I'll take that, Spreader.
So, yes, I think I can well, I cannot be complacent, about my application.
Run rancid.
The enemy's bottom tower has fallen.
I can be overconfident about it.
Of course.
But it's great to know that I've been passing.
Yes. Plague spreader. My tissues rot. I'm under attack. Here's pussing around. Forward.
Don't worry, Mortimer. I'm still here.
Sweet spoilage.
Figure you'd be on the dodge somewhere, Slark.
Vector of infection.
Your middle
Affliction.
Your middle tower is under attack.
Of course.
Radiant's turret has been killed.
Yes. Quickly. I moulder on.
So, yes, right now I'm thinking about other stuff besides work. And, I don't know. I'll figure things out later.
Forward. Plague spreader.
been killed.
Excuse me. Freak.
Your middle tower is under attack.
Marks the spot.
Radiant structures are fortified.
I molder on. Of course.
You know, the other day I was melting down. I was having a meltdown, you know, about how I did my part. You know, it shouldn't take them so long.
The enemy's middle tower has fallen.
You know, I don't mind looking desperate. I really need the job. And I would really like to work from home. So,
The
yeah.
enemy's top tower has fallen.
Just gotta do what I gotta do. I did what I gotta do. And so far it's been paying off.
Dire's turret has been killed.
Oh, shit hurts. Excuse me. They finally got me.
Rancid resurgence. Sweet spoilage. Vector of infection. Marks the spot. Yes. I go. Plague spreader.
Frick. I didn't even help with the push.
I'm going to show you an image that we were going to prep and put on the screen, but I'm going to show you literally in.
You know, maybe I'll just make patties and eat it with rice. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. Instead of also having to cook the pasta.
In the book.
I don't know, I can't decide that.
She falls asleep. Simone is thrust into a visceral nightmare. One that she remembered every detail of this nightmare. So in her
You know, I've already heard about this story.
her dream, okay, she comes to in her dream and she looks out and she sees this post-apocalyptic skyline. It's like a desert city with all these buildings that have now basically fallen into disrepair. They're crumbling over. It looks like, a nuclear bomb has gone off and we're in the nuclear holocaust and humanity is being wiped out. And so she's looking off into the distance and she sees this skyline of just broken down buildings and it's just, sand everywhere. And between her and these buildings, so in the foreground, are all these people that are just standing there, shoulder to shoulder, maybe like a couple hundred feet away from her. Their clothes are in tatters. They look like some of them are naked, but they're just like barely wearing any of these clothes. And they're standing there, shoulder to shoulder, just staring at Simone. It's hard to detail this in whole this. But there you go. That's the visual for the skyline. And so they're all staring at Simone. And so she instinctively is fearful of these people, but they're not moving towards her. They're not doing anything. They're just kind of standing there like zombies. And so she's kind of taking stock of the scene, and she didn't know why it was scary, but it was. She's like, this is a nightmare, right? As she's looking at these people, and as she's taking in the skyline, she takes stock of the fact that on either side of her are these two huge men that she doesn't know how, or they're not physically laying hands on her, but she can tell they are the reason that she can't move from the spot she's in. She's kind of rooted to the spot. The guy on her left is not doing anything. He's just standing there. But the guy on her right is kind of turned to the side, like he's doing something with his hands, but you can't quite see what it is. And so, Simone, she's kind of looking over as best as she can at this guy, trying to figure out what he's doing. She's seeing these people and this horrible skyline. And then at some point, the guy on her right turns back around, and in his hand, he's holding what looks like a wreath, like a holiday wreath you would hang on your door, during Christmas time, let's say. And so Simone sees this wreath, doesn't really know what to make of it. It's this weird, nightmare she's having. But the guy, without saying anything, who's next to Simone, he raises the wreath over her head, right? He's holding it above her head. And at this point, the other guy on the left side of Simone, he grabs the other side of this wreath. So now there's 4 hands holding this wreath above Simone's head, okay? I don't know if I'm in frame, so I'm gonna go straight on with the camera. So they're holding this wreath, and they begin to lower it towards Simone's head. And as they do, Simone can tell all these people, they're looking a little bit more intently in the direction of Simone, really taking into account what's going to happen here. And as soon as this wreath touches Simone's head, she feels this blinding pain, like an excruciating pain all around the crown of her head. And she realizes at this exact moment that this is not just some wreath, it's a crown of thorns, and the thorns are digging into her head, and these 2 huge men are pulling it down on her head as hard as they possibly can, and she wants to scream, but she can't make any noise. She wants to run, she can't, and so she's just stuck there feeling this excruciating pain, and blood is pouring down her face, and it's unreal. It feels real. It literally feels real to her. And so in the dream, this goes on for several seconds until finally it's so much that she wakes up. She's out of the dream. And so Simone, she takes stock of the fact that she's in this dark forest, which must have been, disconcerting at first, but she looks around, she's in her cot, she's surrounded by the counselors, she can't really see anything, but she's like, oh, okay, it was just a bad dream. But instinctively, like we all do when we sometimes have, maybe not dreams like this, I hope not, but similar horrible dreams, you kind of check just to make sure you really are not dreaming. And so she reached up and touched her head to make sure she was not, in fact, wearing a crown of thorns. And she touched her head, and there was no crown of thorns, and so she's relieved. But when she brought her hand back down, she can't see her hand, it's too dark, but she felt like there was something on it, something sticky. And at the same time, as she's noticing that there's something sticky on her head, she begins to feel this pain bubbling up around her head that was very similar to the pain she felt in her dream. And so as this pain is ratcheting up and up and up, she catches out of the corner of her eye, again, it's very dark, but maybe out of the moonlight or something, she could either hear something or barely see something running around in the tree line near her, kind of scurrying off away from her. She has no idea what it is, but she can't even focus on it because now the pain, the real pain, not the phantom pain in her dream, but the actual pain to her head is so blinding, she can only focus on that. And it finally gets to the point where she starts to panic. She doesn't know what's going on. She's realizing this is blood. That's what I touched my head. There's blood on my head. And so she begins to scream. So she's screaming, and the girl who's next to her, the other counselor, wakes up because the girl's screaming right next to her. The counselor sits up. She sees Simone screaming. She's like, what's going on? What's going on? She can't see Simone. It's too dark. And so this other counselor fumbles for a flashlight, grabs a flashlight, turns around, and shines it on Simone's face. And the second Simone is illuminated, and this counselor can see her, the other counselor begins to scream at what she sees on Simone's head. And so for the next 15 minutes, it is absolute chaos in the forest as people are screaming, they're trying to figure out what's going on, the other counselors are waking up, nobody knows what's going on. And in the course of those 15 minutes, the other counselors grab Simone, they put her into one of the vehicles they had at the camp. And by this point, Simone is vomiting, she's still bleeding from her head, and they rushed her to the hospital. I wish I could poll right now and say, what do you think happened? But I'll tell you what happened. When Simone was having that dream, the dream where she sees the city skyline and she doesn't know what's going on, and then suddenly she felt the thorns being driven into her head. Well, the pain she was feeling in her dream of something driving into her head was synced up with actual pain she was feeling in real life. There was something digging into her head, but for some reason, her body, her brain, didn't process the pain in real life the way you would think you would, like wake up because something's happening to you. Instead, the thing that was happening in real life to Simone's head kind of manifested itself in this dream. So we basically believe Simone was already having a nightmare. She's in this post-apocalyptic landscape, and then something in real life began happening to her head, and it entered her dream. That was the crown of thorns. Well, the real thing that was happening was a fox had snuck into the camp, or was living in the forest, wandered up to Simone, and began eating her scalp. And it sat there and ate her head and took at least 20 solid bites out of her head before the pain in real life that had manifested in her dream got so extreme that Simone bolted upright, and her sitting upright scared the fox off, and almost certainly that is the thing she saw scurrying off into the forest. And she was rushed to the hospital. She would be saved, and they actually were able to suture her scalp all back together again, and they hid the scars in her hairline. But I spoke to Simone, so I mentioned there was a
Wow, he got to speak with her.
connection to our community. She might even be listening to this, to be honest. Simone posted this story on our subreddit. It was about her and this experience. You know, she described this whole story, and how after it happened, she was so traumatized that she not only could not go back in that forest ever again, but she couldn't go into any forests anymore. I mean, it's like true PTSD. And she said she still has phantom pain, you know, where the fox bit her head. And she also said that because it was a fox, she had to go through this insane, like, rabies protocol. Rabies is a lethal, you know, disease you can get from animals that have it. It's treatable, but she had all these shots she had to get. I mean, it was this horrible experience, but she lived, and she's one of our amazing members of the Strange, Dark, and Mysterious community. And so, yeah, that story is a wild one, and it's one of the stories in our graphic novel here. Just to show that image again. Pretty cool, huh? Pretty good. Go to cam 2, see if you can zoom in on that again. That's the I can't show too much, but here's what you get to see. Pretty good stuff. Pretty cool.
Hey everybody, if you haven't heard yet, we announced some really big news recently. We are putting out a book, and it's amazing. It's called Mr. Ballin Presents Strange, Dark, and Mysterious, The Graphic Stories, and it's an amazing graphic novel we have been working on for over a year. And it's our very first book, so we're all very proud of this. We think it's going to be so amazing. So in this book, there are 9 stories, 5 of which are of the old variety, so you've heard them on YouTube, and they've been remastered and put into this book. And then you have 4 full-length, brand new stories, which are amazing, that have also been put inside of this book. And the way we made those 4 new stories is to have them replicate the feel of YouTube. In fact, I would say this whole book is like the written version of our YouTube channel. It's totally a throwback to our OG fans who found us on YouTube. This is the book for you. It's going to be so good. The book's not coming out until my birthday, October 1st, but you can pre-order it right now by going to book.com book.ballinstudios.com. And also, after you pre-order, be sure to follow me on social media and all the other places that we put out content, because we're going to be teasing stuff about this book before release. Things like, sneak peeks into the book and some pieces of artwork and some behind-the-scenes stuff. So there's a lot of stuff going on, but it all starts with pre-ordering that book. So again, go to book.ballinstudios.com and pre-order our first ever official book. It's going to be great. Enjoy. So that's going to do it. If you're looking for more strange, dark, and mysterious content, remember we have a whole slew of strange, dark, and mysterious podcasts under the Ballin Studios umbrella. There is the Mr. Ballin podcast, Mr. Ballin's Medical Mysteries, Run Fool, Bedtime Stories, and our newest edition, Wartime Stories, which everybody's raving about. And so these are all free podcasts with hundreds of hours of content that you can listen to right now. All you have to do is search for Ballin Studios on any podcast platform, and boom, there they are, all the podcasts. You can start your binge. Thank you so much. Until next time, see ya.
Come feast for the flesh fly.
Today, we have a very special bonus video for you guys. It's a collection of 5 horrifying stories that'll have you wondering what could be lurking in our forests. Now, these 5 fan-favorite stories have all been completely re-edited for today's episode, so even if you've seen or heard them before, it will feel like a brand new viewing experience. But before we get into today's 5 stories, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, then you've come to the right place, because that's all we do, and we upload once a week. So if that's of interest to you, the next time the like button is watching their favorite show that they've been looking forward to watching for weeks, join them for the viewing, but constantly interrupt them and ask questions. Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads. Okay, let's get into today's stories.
Or maybe I can make like giniling. I'm just gonna put a little bit, a teeny tiny bit of spaghetti sauce. A teeny tiny bit. Just to make the oil of it kinda red. But not really make it very saucy. Man, I want maybe a soft-boiled egg also, but I'm not gonna have egg. Well, I don't have anything to do after the stream anymore. I'm done with the job stuff for now. I really don't know why my solar setup got depleted so quickly. That's pretty weird.
In early July of 1953, Mr. and Mrs. Huggin, along with their 3 young daughters, left their home in Winnipeg, Canada for a 6-week summer vacation. They were headed to the girls' grandparents' summer cabin in Wade, Ontario, which is one of the more remote and wild sections of Ontario. Their cabin was right in the middle of this huge swampy forest, and they were not too far from one of the biggest lakes in Ontario called Fox Lake. The family arrived...
Wait. I'm not gonna put spaghetti sauce, I'm gonna put ketchup from those sachets or packets.
late on July 4th, so they didn't do anything when they arrived. They just hung out at the cabin. And then early the next day, all the adults decided they wanted to take the girls to Fox Lake for the day. So they began gathering all the supplies they would need while the 3 girls played outside the cabin. Now, there's no neighbors or anybody else anywhere near this cabin. And so it was totally normal to have the girls just play outside. They were not concerned about, them getting taken or something. And so the 2 older girls played in the front yard of the cabin, and Geraldine, the 5-year-old, was playing on the side of the cabin. So the 2 girls in front couldn't see Geraldine, and the adults, they were keeping their eye on all 3 girls, but they were mostly just kind of going in and out of the cabin, getting their stuff together, periodically poking their head out, but the girls were fine. At 10 a.m. that morning, the parents had finally packed up the car, and they were ready to collect the girls to head over to the lake. And so they went outside, they got the 2 girls that were out front, and they went to the side of the house, and they couldn't find Geraldine. Now, they weren't worried because where could she have gone? And so they walked around the house, they're yelling for Geraldine, and they asked the 2 girls, have you seen Geraldine? Where'd she go? And they're like, oh, we don't know. She was just over on the side of the house a minute ago. And so they can't find her outside. And so they go in the cabin thinking she must have gone in there because that's the only place she could be. But after thoroughly looking through the cabin and not finding her, they started to get a little bit more worried. At this point, the adults start talking to each other and they're saying, did anybody see Geraldine in the past couple of minutes? Has anybody seen her? And they all said, yeah, I poked my head out the window and I saw her within the past 10 minutes right on the side of the cabin. And so they all agreed within the past 10 minutes they had seen her right outside the cabin. So they're alarmed they can't find her, but they're thinking we're gonna find her. So they go back outside and they're looking around and they're yelling for her. Now, this is such a remote section of Ontario that there's really no noise pollution and sound travels really, really well. And so when they were yelling her name, it was booming through the woods. And even if Geraldine had, sprinted for 10 minutes away from the cabin, she still easily would have been within earshot. And all she had to do was just, yell back and they would see her. But she didn't yell back and there was no sign of her anywhere. And so at this point, the family is panicking. And so they call the police. The police show up and they're looking around thinking, we're not going to be able to search this very effectively on our own. This is a huge, wild, remote section of Canada. And so they called in some professional trackers that were familiar with this area to come in and help them with their search. They also called the army in Winnipeg to send over some people to assist as well. But as soon as the search started, the skies opened up and dumped rain all over the entire area, basically washing away any footprints that they could have used to potentially find her. As the day wore on and the sun was starting to set and there was still no sign of Geraldine, her father said something to the searchers that was intended to help them find his daughter, but it was just this incredibly heartbreaking comment. And what he told them was his daughter was afraid of the dark, and that once it got dark out in the woods here, she's just going to sit down and cry. And so that will stop her from moving farther away from us, hopefully, and we should be able to find her. But they didn't. And for 3 days, they looked everywhere for her, and there was no trace of her. And to make matters even worse is the weather had been really rainy and cold, not below freezing temperatures, but close, like in the 40-degree Fahrenheit range. And she just had a light shirt and shorts on. She was not prepared for the weather. On the evening of the 3rd day, they found footprints that they believed to be Geraldine's high up on this ledge in some moss overlooking Fox Lake. And the footprints indicated that this child, which was probably Geraldine, was looking out over the lake and then turned around and walked away from the ledge down into the swamp where her footprints dissipate. And so the search effort was pushed to this swamp, and they had thousands of people that are combing through this mosquito-infested bush to look for this girl, and once again, there's nothing. Then, on the 7th day of the search, they find another set of footprints in the swamp around the area where they were looking for Geraldine. But it wasn't Geraldine's footprints because they were these huge prints that if it was a human print, they would need to be an enormous human being. Or these prints belonged to some enormous animal, but they were unable to determine what animal it was. At this point, although there's not really any real evidence connecting that print to Geraldine, people are starting to suspect that whoever left this print or whatever left this print has something to do with whatever happened to Geraldine. 2 days later, so 9 days after Geraldine has gone missing, some of the professional trackers were 2.5 miles away from where that large print was found in that swamp and where Geraldine's footprints were found up on that ledge. They found a piece of her plaid shirt 2.5 miles away on the eastern shore of another lake called Long Lake. And so they pushed the search effort over to that section of Long Lake, and within 24 hours they would find Geraldine's remains. The scene where Geraldine was found was bizarre. There was very little left of Geraldine, and from what was left, it was clear there had been significant animal predation. And so initial thoughts were, she must have been attacked by wolves. That's what killed her. But upon closer inspection, they saw that her clothing had not been torn and there was no blood on her clothes. So the animal predation had most likely occurred after she was deceased, because they would have been able to pick around the clothing. Whereas if it had been a wolf attack, they would have cut right through the clothes and there would be marks that obviously, she was attacked by animals. But Geraldine's remains appeared to have been dragged out of a nearby meadow to where she was ultimately located. And so they followed the drag line into this meadow, and it led them to this opening where all the grass had been matted down. And investigators said it looked like something big had been laying there. And they speculated that that might have been the area where Geraldine had been killed, and then afterwards animals had dragged her over to where she was found. And so investigators are like, well, we found that large footprint in the swamp on the 7th day in the same area where we had found Geraldine's footprints, and we thought they might be connected. And now we're finding a large, what appears to be body print in this meadow that's right near where Geraldine's remains have been found. And so probably whoever or whatever left that print in the swamp is the same one that left this print here in the meadow, and therefore is probably Geraldine's killer. But this left investigators with two theories that didn't really make any sense. The first one was, okay, these prints, the swamp print and this body print, belong to an enormous person, like a giant, who ran up to the cabin and abducted Geraldine and ran off, and no one saw them or heard them. And for weeks, they've managed to totally evade capture, despite being, again, an enormous person lumbering through the forest. So that seemed really unlikely. One, that this giant person even existed, and two, that if this giant person existed, how could they not get caught? They're so big running through the forest, they would be easy to spot. But if you rule out the enormous person theory, you're left with the enormous predator theory, which does make more sense on the surface because there are enormous predators that have attacked humans, so that does happen. But when they looked at her remains, they ruled out a wolf attack, and really, they ruled out animal attacks. But if this is an enormous predator, how did it kill Geraldine? The family was told that unfortunately, because there wasn't enough left of her, they weren't able to determine a cause of death. And so their best guess is she was probably mauled by wild animals, but they would even level with the family and say, honestly, we don't know what did this.
Parami na ng parami ang pumipili sa CDO Fantastic Tocino. Ito lang ang may lambot sarap ng 100% young pork. Kaya naman, #1 at pinipili ng marami. Sarap! Basta Tocino, 100% young pork dapat. CDO Fantastic.
Your performance will always be capped until you stop over-processing what you already understand and you start executing what you already see. You see the setup, but then you analyze it deeply. Then you hesitate. Your first read is often right, but your analysis either delays or kills your execution. You should trust your first visual read. You don't need.
As many of you may know, aside from telling stories on this YouTube channel, I also tell stories on my podcast, the Mr. Ballin Podcast, Strange, Dark, and Mysterious Stories. But that's not all. In addition to that podcast, under the Ballin Studios umbrella, there is a whole host of other podcasts that you can binge right now, and their content, all of them, fall into the Strange, Dark, and Mysterious category. For example, if you're into baffling and horrifying medical mysteries, well, you should go check out my other podcast called Mr. Ballin's Medical Mysteries. Or maybe you want to hear from some other voices within our studio, like Luke Lamanna. Luke Lamanna is a military veteran. He has a super iconic, really deep radio voice, and he has two shows. One is called Wartime Stories, where he basically looks at strange, dark, and mysterious wartime stories, and his other show is called Redacted, where he looks at information that used to be classified, and he dives into it with his military expertise and experience, and he basically shows you the lies and secrets and half-truths that the most powerful institutions in the world have been keeping from us. We also have shows that are just plain creepy and unsettling, like Bedtime Stories, hosted by Richard Weil, where he dives into the supernatural and cryptids and mysterious deaths. I mean, basically his whole kind of niche is things that keep you up at night. And then two other shows that fall into that sort of unsettling, creepy vibe are Late Nights with Nexpo, hosted by the famous YouTuber Nexpo, where he dives into true, crazy, scary stories. And then we also have another show called Run Fool, hosted by Rodney Barnes. And Rodney is like an icon in the horror genre at large. And on his show, he just dives into this wild, chilling lore, like horror lore. People love that show. Or if you're a history buff, and you really want stories that are really rooted in the fabric of our timeline, I mean stories that are truly historically accurate but still strange, dark, and mysterious and crazy, well, check out A Twist of History, hosted by Joel. He's great voice, he's a very thorough host. Those stories all have really cool endings, big plot twists at the end. So, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious, go check out these shows. You can look for them either by name or simply by looking for Ballin Studios on any podcast platform. They are available right now. Enjoy.
In 2010, Jan Maccabee was living with her husband Bruce in a town called Lima, Ohio, which is approximately 80 miles southwest of Lake Erie. While Jan had built a successful career as a booking agent for musicians, bands, and entertainers, her real passion was deer hunting. So on September 29th of that year, right after deer hunting season had opened in Ohio, Jan decided to go out on a hunt. That morning had been cold and damp and gray, but by that afternoon, when Jan was getting ready to go, the temperatures had risen and the sun had come out. Jan's preferred method of hunting was to sit and watch from a tree stand, which is a ladder that you put in the woods that sits about 15 feet high. She would sit up there with her bow and arrow and wait to take a shot when a deer came by. Around 5 p.m. that day, she told Bruce she was leaving, and she made it to a tree stand by about 5:30. The forest she was going to be hunting in was one she was very familiar with, and it was not very remote. There were a couple houses just outside the woods, there were some agricultural areas, and her nephew actually went to high school just a mile north of these woods. But from the tree stand where she was sitting, all she could see around her was trees. Shortly after Jan sat down, she started texting with one of her friends on her BlackBerry. And periodically, she'd poke her head up and look for deer. There weren't any, and then she'd go back to texting. The whole time this is happening, Jan can hear birds and crickets and squirrels and all the sounds of the forest all around her. A little after 6 p.m., her texting conversation with her friend reached a natural conclusion, and so she went back to just kind of sitting in the tree stand looking around. By about 6:20 p.m., she still hadn't seen any deer, and she was starting to get bored, so she decided she would take a selfie. She picked up her BlackBerry, she took the selfie, and as soon as she was done, she became aware that the forest had suddenly gone completely quiet. No more squirrels, no more birds, no more crickets, just complete silence. And she knew as a hunter the only time this happened was when a large predator was in the area and all the other animals went quiet. But Jan would later say there was just something different about this silence. It was so sudden and so complete that it scared her. And she wound up sending another text message to that friend she'd been texting earlier that said the woods just went completely silent. Very odd. As soon as Jan hit send on that text message and lowered her phone, she immediately became aware of something about 20 feet away in the tree that was right across from her. And she said it was the most unusual and terrifying thing she had ever seen. Moving left to right through the branches was this thing that she described as like a visual distortion. She said it was like looking across pavement on a really hot day and seeing that mirage, except this one looked like it was alive, like it had mass, like it was a see-through person that had been wrapped in saran wrap. And so Jan thinks it's a floater in her eyes, and so she rubs her eyes, and when she looks up, this thing has now moved down a branch closer to her and has stopped, like it's perched on the branch, staring at her, and Jan's horrified, but she knows she wants to document it, so she grabs her phone, and she raises it up, and she takes a picture on her BlackBerry right as this thing kind of disappears behind the tree and vanishes. Just seconds after this thing disappeared, all the sounds in the forest came back. The birds, the squirrels, the crickets, it was all back to normal, but Jan was really shaken up because she just could not make sense of what she just saw. So she just continued to stare in the general direction of where this thing was for several minutes until finally she felt like it was safe again, at which point she brought her phone up to look at the picture she had taken. When she looked at it, it looked like a blurry mess, and so she thought, oh, I blew it, I put my hand over it, or my hair got in the way of it, or something. But at the same time, she's thinking to herself, but my hair didn't get in the way of it, and I very clearly held it out in front of me and know that I was looking at my phone when I took it, and I had a clear shot of this thing, so I don't really understand how this photo got so messed up. But after looking at the picture for a little while, she started to kind of laugh at herself, the idea that she'd just seen a saran wrap person running through the treetops. She just felt like that didn't happen. It must have been in my head, and as for this picture, I probably just blocked the lens, and that's it. That night, when Jan got back to her house, she did not tell her husband Bruce about what happened to her in the tree stand because, again, she's telling herself it was all in her head. They have dinner, they clean up, they sit down in the living room, and they're both on their phones, and they're just kind of scrolling through the internet and their emails, and at some point, Bruce reacts to something he's reading. He makes a sound. And Jan hears him and says, "Oh, what are you looking at?" And he said, "I just got a really interesting email from our nephew, the one that goes to school down the road. He said that today they were outside for band practice, and at some point all of them turned to look at the forest, and there was a bright circular light that was kind of hovering in the forest. And I guess they all stared at it for about 5 or 10 seconds, and then at some point the light kind of went back into the forest, and they didn't know what to make of it. And I guess one of his classmates said that a year before, the exact same thing happened, and it apparently scared their instructor so badly that they canceled rehearsal and went inside because of it." As Jan is listening to her husband read this email, she's sitting up and her heart is racing, and as soon as he finishes, she says, "What time did he say that happened?" Bruce picked up how intensely she was asking him, and so he looked at the email, looked back at his wife, and was like, "It was between 7:50 and 8. Why?" At this point, Jan revealed everything that had happened to her while she was hunting, seeing that visual distortion in the trees that looked like a figure of some kind. And she would tell him that the forest she was in was the same one their nephew was claiming to have seen this circular light floating inside of. She told him she tried to take a picture of the thing she saw, but the picture didn't come out. But her husband, who is an optical physicist and therefore an expert at analyzing a picture, said, "Here, let me take a look at it." As soon as he looked at the image, the first thing he asked her was, "Well, did your hair get in front of the lens?" And she said, "No, I was holding it about a foot away from my head, and my hair was in a ponytail and a ball cap, so that can't be my hair." And so he looked at it again, and he asked her, "Well, did you put your finger over the lens, maybe?" And she said, "Yeah, I might have. I don't think I did, but it's certainly possible." And so, not really thinking much of this picture, he decides before giving the phone back to just check the resolution of the image, because whenever he would examine a picture, that was something he would do, and he discovered an anomaly. It turns out Jan's BlackBerry was only capable of taking pictures in 3 distinct resolutions. Basically, the size of the image could only come in small, medium, or large. And this picture she had taken of this thing she saw in the trees was a resolution size that was not small, medium, or large. It was some random size that the phone was actually not capable of producing. And so he asked his wife, "Did you manipulate your resolution settings?" And she said, "No, I don't even know how to do that." So Bruce looked at the other couple of pictures she had taken that day, and all of those fell into the small, medium, or large resolution size. It was just this one picture that was a total anomaly. And so Bruce was suddenly really intrigued by this image and by his wife's story, and so he continued to study the image, and he kept asking his wife questions about, how she was positioned in the tree stand, and where the sun was, and how far away this thing was, and everything about the whole layout. And eventually Bruce started conducting experiments to see if he could duplicate this image his wife had created, and he got pretty scientific about it, and he could not duplicate it. Ultimately, because Bruce trusts his wife did not alter the photo in any way, and he trusts his wife as being truthful about what she experienced in the tree stand, what she saw, and based on his years of being an optical physicist, Bruce believes whatever was in the trees distorted this image. That even if she had put her finger over the lens, which he doesn't think she did, and she doesn't think she did, the picture resolution was altered in such a way that something had to have an effect on it. There was a third-party effect on this picture.
Alright, let's end it with that. Let's end it with that. So, yeah, again, I'm very grateful that I'm so far seem to be passing. And what else can I say? I'm gonna keep on doing my best. And thank you guys for dropping by in the stream. I really appreciate you. Have a great day or night wherever you are. Bye now. Bye bye. Thank you.